Let's take a breath together. Big inhale. Big exhale. And just sit in silence for a moment. So the question came up, what is the fabric, the very fabric of conflict, where the conflict begins? Let's explore this together. Someone would say that conflict begins with communication that has some violent aspects in it. Communication that represents some form of attack. Let's backtrack it some. Communication is the product of language. Verbal or non-verbal language. It's transference of thought that forms some intention that wants to be transferred, that wants to be communicated. So the very beginning of interpersonal conflict is not a particular kind of communication, but possibly communication altogether, as we try to alter the reality of another being with our words and non-verbal communication. It doesn't mean that we mean something ill, something bad, but we alter someone's reality using our partial perception of what's right, what's wrong. With that we bring polarity, because all thoughts are partial, and communication is a product of thought. First goes thought. It leads to some sort of intention to communicate the thought in form of some form of language. The word, the sound, the word, the gestures, and gesture can be leading someone somewhere or pushing. So there is some movement to communicate what we want to happen. Maybe we want to change someone's position in the space, someone's behavior, someone's way of thinking, believing, perceiving the world. And the conflict is in the opposite of it, because there is some polar view, point of view, polar perception to that which you, I, we intend to communicate. So the very nature of conflict, the very beginning of it, it starts from a thought, because the thought itself is partial. It represents only one side of the coin, one polarity, yet there is always another polarity. There is always an opposite. That which together represent wholeness, two polarities, or many aspects of various partialities, portions of the whole. No thought ever can represent the whole. So now we take a partial thought that represents the partial truth, not the truth, not the entire truth, but only partial truth. And now we want to communicate this truth to another, in hope, and very often more than that, in demand that it's heard. And in human world, heard means usually agreed with. Because very often when we disagree with another, we say, I feel unheard. Who feels unheard? What aspect of the self feels unheard in this situation? Well, it's that aspect that identified with partial truth. And if truth is partial, it's not entire truth, which means it's not truth at all. It's a false perception of the truth. So all we communicate to each other is our false perceptions. That's all we know. We cannot know the entirety, because in the wholeness, in the entirety, there is no subject-object reality, which means there is nobody to perceive the wholeness. The wholeness is the wholeness of itself. There is no part in it outside of the wholeness to look at itself, to perceive itself, to assess and analyze itself, to make it true or false, as if it is anything other than the entirety. So we cannot see the wholeness, we cannot see the truth to communicate it. We only split the wholeness into partialities, into aspects, into contextual segments. And contextual means those that correspond to our biases, perceptual filters, all that result of our conditioning. The environment that taught us to believe in this particular representation of reality. So all we share with each other, all we communicate is representation of reality according to our biases, perceptions, projections, judgments. So we make another believe in some partial reality as if it is the truth. The conflict arises in the fact that another cannot meet that reality completely, ever. Because we all have very different formed partial realities. They never exact match. And none of us, in this communication so-called, see the truth to communicate the truth. The only way to communicate the truth is to be completely silent. And silent not only from standpoint of verbal communication, means silent as not talking, not making a sound, but it also not making an internal dialogue or monologue, not having the stream of consciousness running around, imposing on our identity some aspects of this identity. Can there be absence of conflict outside of silence? It can be illusion of absence of conflict, so we don't fight. But the conflict is in those polarities not fully meeting. The polar views not really meeting each other. In silence they do. They just coexist without anybody intending to make one polarity dominating reality as if it is. That's why in relationships between people who are very busy, do all the time, think, analyze, assess, they are very rocky. Relationships are very rocky. There's always churning of ideas and thoughts that compete with each other for the stand of I exist as the truth. And of course, we are not in visible conflict all the time, but appearance of conflict can be noticed once in a while. It manifests itself in some active form that is very noticeable. And if we don't argue openly, it often looks like resentment, because we suppress disagreement, internal disagreement, with a thought of another. What is the resolve for this? What is the resolve? Coming back to silence, and through silence to unity within ourselves and with another being. And in this silence, love truly can be felt. Love that is conflict-free, thoughts-free, manipulation-free, pure love. Very fulfilling, not grasping, not demanding, not attempting to alter other realities, reality of another being, just settling in itself here and now into presence, where love reveals itself to both. May love be your reality. May you know love today and always.